Alright, we're live, and we have our regular crew back this week. So, hello everyone, welcome to the Invisible Gamecast, brought to you by Invisible Gamer, and we're getting started a little bit late tonight, but better late than never, I guess. So, let's introduce ourselves. My name's Gabe Gurwin, and down there, oh god, he's doing it again, is Michael Burns.
Hey guys.
Michael.
Next to him is Brien Bell.
Hey.
And on the other side of him, I hope, for you viewers, because I can never tell anymore, is Seth Scott.
Hey everyone.
And on the end is Tristan Ettleman.
Hello.
Alrighty, so I think we have a pretty good show this week. Actually, a lot happened compared to the post E3 lull, which you'd expect there to be a lot of like residual stuff coming out after E3, but that wasn't really the case. But this week is when I guess news finally caught up with it. So,
Xbox didn't have any policies to reverse this year.
yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? Although they might be adding back shared family sharing. I saw. I don't know how they do that, but maybe just with digital games, which could be a way to get people to actually.
Maybe they're going to release the Xbox 2, and that's how they're doing it.
TOO. In addition to you buy both and you connect them together, and then that makes it 1080p. Anyway, so the big news, Tristan, you wrote an article on this, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Crytek, first off, big studio, been releasing a lot of games lately, not doing so hot.
Yeah, there's some weirdness going on over at Crytek. I guess people are not getting paid on time, which is apparently not anything new for Crytek. There's been periods in the past where that happens, but it's in the wake of some rumors earlier this year about Rise 2 being canceled and some kind of dispute between Microsoft and Crytek. And then there's like the news that people are leaving like in droves, and there's just unrest going on there. And what really, I mean, obviously I cared about the story, but what made me kind of upset about it was the fact that, or the probably a fact of the fact that the CEOs just drive their Ferraris to work and stuff like that, and they spend a lot of money on flights and stuff. So, not good stuff. They've denied it. So, who knows what's actually going on?
Yeah, and
That's
so
actually really common, though, when companies are going through trouble.
Of course, and that's why I don't like companies.
Yeah. Big business.
Yeah.
I'm changing your nickname from Edel Todd to Chairman Mao.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Apparently, the issue I saw was that it wasn't, at least in the Rise case, it wasn't so much a financial thing as Microsoft said if they were going to fund the game, they wanted the rights to the Rise IP.
Right. Yeah.
And Crytek wanted to keep that. Crytek obviously has a lot of rights to IP. Have you seen that, by the way, that Kirk Hamilton article on Kotaku where he changed, they used a Google plugin to change IP to immense penis on every article?
I did not see that.
It's pretty amazing.
I didn't sign up for this. So what does everybody think about this story? Do people actually still care about Crytek? I didn't play Rise, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. Like I care about half the games they put out, and obviously Crytek UK, which a lot of this turmoil seems to be happening at, is formerly Free Radical, which was a terrific developer when they were by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I care about it on not so much a what they can offer me basis, but on like these are people that need money basis. So that's how I feel about it.
Well,
and obviously they just bought up a bunch of
like
IP.
a dick for posing a question.
So like they own the rights to Homefront now, which they bought only for $500,000, like at the very end of this auction. Around the same time that Nordic Games bought the rights to Darksiders, but Nordic Games seems to be in a much better position. And Homefront: The Revolution, like most people, I don't think really cared about Homefront. It was basically just a playable Red Dawn, and it wasn't very good. But Homefront: The Revolution, when I saw the first gameplay, I was like, okay, it's an open world kind of guerrilla style shooter. I can get on board with that. But then it seems like most of their experimental games that they think were going to be the future of the company aren't doing so well. On one side, you don't want companies to ever fail. My dog is scratching at the door, by the way. But on the other side, like, I don't think that most people wanted Crytek to be just spending all of its, money and using its superpowered CryEngine just to make Warface.
Yeah.
God,
Did Crytek actually develop Far Cry 2?
I
They only
think
did the first one.
Are you
Only
sure
the
they
first
did the
one?
second one too? Oh no, you're right.
Yeah,
'Cause
Ubisoft.
Clint Hawking was the director on Far Cry 2, and he was with
And then they
Ubisoft.
did Crisis 2 and 3, right?
They did all of them.
Obviously the first
Yeah.
one. Okay, well, the last Crytek game I played was Crisis 3, which was awful. The last one before that was Crisis 2, which was amazing.
Crisis 3 wasn't as good as Crisis 2, but it was still okay.
Crisis 3 was really bad, in my opinion.
Okay. Did you play multiplayer?
A little bit, but
Okay, the multiplayer was really good. The campaign, the ending was pretty terrible, but I don't know. I still enjoyed that game. I think I gave it like an 8.5 in a review. I probably down it a little bit if I reviewed it now. But but Crytek UK, who I think own the rights to these now, because they have Time Splitters. They made Second Sight, which I always talk about. No one cares about.
Time Splitters is one of my biggest franchises I want to come back.
Yeah, and it's
phenomenal.
I
So
don't know
good.
if there's just enough of a market like need for it. If it got kickstarted, it could probably come back or something.
There was a petition that I was a part of that was trying to get it back,
I'm
but
sorry.
you mean
Every
like
time
you
I
went
see
to-
those
you mean like you
change.org
went to
petitions.
change.org and you signed a petition with like 300 people on it?
exactly. But it was more than 300. There was a good amount, but still, it was
400.
like I'm signing this.
There was a White House
It's never
petition.
gonna happen.
There was a White House petition to like get Mass Effect 3's ending changed. I remember.
Yeah.
Hey, it
Fucking
worked.
president.
Yeah.
I figured I would just do it because any chance to get Time Splitters back would be great. Because if you haven't played those games, they're phenomenal. Yeah.
So it's better than the hundreds of recreational marijuana change.org petitions that I have to see my Facebook friends posting all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
I mean, I don't think the petition's still going. It was just.
Oh yeah.
I just hope the game comes back.
Feel
which it
free to
never
link
will.
to it in the show notes, Gabe.
Oh yeah. Of course. And so the Shanghai studio is also encountering trouble, but it seems to be that they're putting this big push into they say they're transitioning to free-to-play only games, yet we still see them, announcing games that aren't free-to-play only. And I just hope that these projects stick around, because they're still, I think, a talented bunch. Plus, a lot of the people who worked at Vigil Games are now at Crytek USA, which just opened up about 6 months ago or so.
Yeah.
So moving on to something that I don't know, I did not expect this. So Nintendo at their shareholders meeting voted to retain pretty much every executive in these re-elections, as well as one new guy who they brought on board. Yeah, I really, really didn't expect the board to keep Iwata on.
Probably they kept him on because he's ill right now, and they were afraid that they would kill him.
Yeah, he just had surgery, right?
That's the only thing that I can
Yeah,
think
he had a something removed from his bile duct.
I hate to disagree. I hate to be the one to disagree with that on the fact that it's just kind of morbid, but
Well, do you remember Joe Paterno, the football coach?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as he had to
of.
resign, he
Video
died.
Games podcast.
Yeah,
Saying.
yeah. I mean,
I don't know
NCAA football used to be a thing.
Once
Yeah.
upon a time. It's still a thing. It's just a thing that's costing $200 million in court.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's probably never coming back.
how recent of changes around Nintendo do you think influenced them? Because I would say after E3 and going into the summer, they're on a pretty big upswing comparatively with the last 2 years. Do you think they would take into account that at all? Or just are they going to, I mean, obviously they kept him, so...
Clearly, they took into account the epic battle between him and Reggie during the
Yeah.
Nintendo Direct
Yeah.
conference.
There's some fists of fury right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean-
finally, my face is back. I was worried. I was frozen. I don't know if you guys could see me moving, but I couldn't.
Yeah,
I Michael's doing
I
it
think
again.
it's. I don't know what could have. I have no idea what Japanese business executives think about, but I guess me. Believe it or not.
I'm gonna say princesses.
You need to start learning.
Probably kawaii princesses if the internet is anything to go by.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's stuff like Mario Kart 8 kind of getting some traction. Other big games like that coming up. So that's possibly it.
Yeah, my
I
theory
mean,
is that they're
yeah.
willing to give him about another year and see if
Yeah.
all the huge number of 2015 games can actually turn the Wii U
Right.
around.
Yeah. That's.
If
that's
they
what it
don't,
seems
he's totally done.
Well, it's
I mean,
so
yes.
bizarre. It's so bizarre seeing Game Informer. They've been posting their list of all the confirmed games and release dates for the rest of the year, and you see 30 titles for PlayStation and 20 something for Xbox and 4 confirmed release dates for the Wii U, and that's a problem.
It's like that console was out for a year before these, and it's still survive. And look at the titles too.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you guys are excited for freaking Captain Toad, but I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I'm a big Nintendo fan, and I'm not going to just not accept where the state they're at. And they need to have more games releasing, but I'm satisfied with my Nintendo console. I mean,
when I play it, I am too.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't play my Wii as much as I'd like. I'm playing a lot of my other consoles now, in 3DS and PS4, but like what you get with the Wii is, or the Wii U, excuse me, is
there's a problem I have with it too.
That is a problem. I'll agree with that. But
it's not a handheld. Target.
What are you talking about? Did they market it like that?
Target is how apparently some Target recently marketed as a handheld.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you can poop with it.
Technically,
It is a handheld.
It could be the best handheld ever, because you can take it in your car if you got enough.
The best handheld ever that you have to plug in to the wall.
Exactly.
And
it's like the Virtual Boy. They have that ad where the kid's like lying in the grass with it, but you can't see the generator like 5 feet away.
Hey, man.
But no, I was just gonna say, I'll wrap up. But that, with the Nintendo, you do get those quality staple releases, interspersed every couple months. And although the fall there'll be Smash, and that's not everyone's cup of tea, but 2015, that was my biggest complaint from Nintendo's E3, was almost everything they showed said coming 2015.
Yeah. So
Michael, Sony, unfortunately.
Michael, you were of the mind that Mario Kart was going to sell the Wii U more than any other Nintendo first-party game. Do you think that that's still true? Do you think Smash is not going to have the same effect?
I do think that Smash is not going to have the same effect, only because Smash Brothers is a... Sorry, I'm getting work emails. I have to close my... Smash Brothers is like a hardcore franchise. It's like as hardcore as it gets. Mario Kart. It's hardcore.
For Nintendo.
I don't mean hardcore Mortal Kombat, like Call of Duty kind of shit. Sorry, I've been reading Console Wars. So Mortal Kombat's on my brain. But no,
it's the most competitive game Nintendo makes.
Well, I mean that it's made for hardcore fans of Nintendo.
See, I don't think that's necessarily true.
This one at least is. Brawl was not. Brawl was definitely catered toward the people who bought a Wii and didn't own a game console before that. But a lot of Wii games were. Seems like they're going.
Anyway, I'm sure it will sell. I'm sure it will sell well, and I'm sure that they'll have a good Christmas. But I don't think that's just going to be because of Smash Brothers. I think it's going to be because of the plastic toys that they're selling.
I'm really excited for those.
I'm going to buy them all, and I don't care about Smash Brothers. I'm going to buy them all, and I'm probably going to have to put them in drawers because I don't have anywhere else to put these things.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I will buy them all too.
So what I was thinking? What's up?
I'm sorry. Just real quick, I don't know if this was one of our stories for later or not, but are the sales figures...
notes, Brian, before you talk.
Right, I know. I should do that.
Mario Kart sales figures are a story.
Yes. And I'm wondering why they're not directly related to this story, because it does kind of have an impact on Iwata's standing with the company, because it has sold really quickly for a system that has only sold about 5 million units worldwide, and the sales for that game have helped that.
Well, that's what I was going to say before Gabe asked me directly about Smash Brothers. I think that basically this is the this is the year where they have Mario Kart and they have Smash Brothers, and I feel like that's pretty much like Iwata's last shot.
Yeah.
So going into that, they sold 2 million units thus far in just over 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Or almost, I guess almost 4 by this point.
Almost a month, but still, that's great.
So they sold very well. I think for a first-party company like them, and that matter, I don't think Sony really cares about it quite as much because they release so many first-party games. But Nintendo, I think it's just going to see if this has any like long-term hardware ramifications, or if the majority of the people who bought this game already had a Wii U and were just waiting for something to play. As we saw, it did, in the short term, raise sales like fourfold, but whether that's going to sustain itself remains to be seen.
I think it's going to continue to sell systems through Christmas.
Yep.
For sure.
It will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mario Kart is one of those games that will just sell and keep selling.
Yeah, that's the thing about Nintendo games in general. If you go to a store and you see the prices on like new Super Mario Bros., the original one for the DS, it's still like $30 compared to like Tomb Raider from last year, which is also like $30.
I read a really interesting passage in Console Wars today, actually, about how about that, actually, going back to the early '90s, how Nintendo would not let retailers mark their games down, and they had all these old games just piling up, and they weren't selling, and Nintendo would not allow them to send them back and get their money back for them, and they wouldn't allow them to mark them down. So Toys R Us's founder basically told Minoru Arakawa, who was the president of NOA at the time, we don't care what you want, we're going to mark them down, and if you have a problem with that, then if you don't want to pay us for that, that's fine, but we won't forget that. And basically Nintendo realized like they had to pay them and let them mark them down, because otherwise every other retailer was going to do it without their permission. And so right after that, Nintendo implemented a corporate markdown policy. But they play hardball with that stuff because they don't have to lower the prices.
It's crazy to think about. Traditionally, they have been a little more of a stubborn company, but I think that a lot of companies back then didn't have to move so quickly. I think Sega had some of the same sort of issues.
Sega was actually the reason that the retailers were able to force Nintendo into doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you guys should all read that book, by the way. It's quite good.
Have you read the Jeff Ryan book, Super Mario?
No.
It's really good.
I've read a couple books, not that one though.
Okay, yeah, that one's a great one. It's
one thing.
A couple years old at this point. What's up?
I was just going to say one thing that I think is good for Nintendo to embrace, and I think they're kind of doing that with their last couple directs, E3, is that they're kind of just going in their own direction and not trying to be, the same on par with the Xbox One and PS4. The bigger that I think that they can distance themselves from that, the better they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not. I mean, even with the Wii, like it wasn't on par with a lot of things that the other systems had, but they still always, I felt like, tried to market it as an equal system, and now I feel like they're kind of going towards just you're buying a Nintendo for Nintendo games, and that is sad in some ways, but I don't know. It's
same as it ever was.
Yeah, exactly. They're at least kind of embracing it, but if they can keep doing that and making weird, humorous stuff and having games and getting some exclusives like Shovel Knight or something, besides Steam, obviously, but I think that's good for them. They're going to keep doing it.
I don't think that's going to be an exclusive, by the way, but we'll talk about that when we talk about that.
Okay. So next up, this is something, it's kind of a segue to talking to something a little more broad. So Creative Assembly announced that Alien Isolation is going to be 1080p on PS4 and on Xbox One. This isn't something that we've been used to for a while.
Stupid Xbox One.
Stupid sexy.
That's blast processing.
Getting good news.
I mean, DirectX 12.
But what I want to talk about isn't that they're the same for once. What I want to talk about is, does resolution really matter that much? The disparity.
No.
And we're gonna see some people nodding. Of course it does. I can tell the difference right away.
Are you being that one guy, Francis?
Well, I wasn't directly being Francis, but I know who you're talking about. Boogie. I think he's very funny.
You sounded just like him.
Yeah, he does that voice. Anyway, but I was mainly doing Mr. Sark, another YouTuber. He does a voice like that I find very funny. Anyway, but
shout out to YouTube.
This isn't like a standard. This isn't like a standard def versus high def. It's 180p difference. In general.
It doesn't matter. I don't care. That's my answer.
I think
you don't care that the difference is that small, or you don't care about a difference at all.
I don't care what P it is, as long as it's a good game.
I don't care about your P.
I think what more people
it's not actually only 180p, just so you know.
I'm simplifying it. But.
Yeah, it just doesn't... For me, personally, I know a lot of people extremely have, like, guidelines that it must meet, but for me, that is the last thing that I want to know about, honestly.
I mean, like, I've played, I guess I can give two examples. So, like, Battlefield 4 was 720p on Xbox One and 900p on PS4. I didn't really notice any loss in quality. Obviously, I hadn't played the PS4 version, but I didn't notice anything, like, say that this doesn't look good enough or something like that. Now, Battlefield 4 is not a great-looking, at least in multiplayer, it doesn't look that much better than I think it would look on console, but, it's a fine-looking game. Mm-hmm. On the other side, I played Assassin's Creed 4 and Watch Dogs both on PS4. Assassin's Creed 4 is 1080p, Watch Dogs is 900p. I didn't notice a difference either, but I guess you can say you do, and no one knows whether you're telling the truth or not.
Mm. I'm sorry, I'm going all J.J. Abrams on you all.
Oh my god, you really are.
Wow, it actually looked like that shot through Gabe's screen and shot his head back. You guys watch it after we're done recording.
Oh. I mean, the grassy knoll, it's coming back.
If you look at that, like, cookie cutter, or not cookie cutter, but side by side, like, split screen, you could maybe tell a difference. But
have you seen that? Have you seen that picture? It's like what the internet says, and it's like some model shot in like gorgeous light for PC. It's regular Assassin's Creed 4 for PS4, and then it's like the dude in 8-bit art for Xbox One, and then my obvious wrong perception, and all three versions are exactly the same.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, it's better to have it more. But like, I'm so sick of seeing every time a game comes out and they announce, oh yeah, this version's a little bit less powerful. Okay, the console's a little less powerful, but. It's just kind of opening up the floodgates, and really, if they hadn't said anything, you wouldn't notice the difference.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to accuse me of being an Xbox fanboy now. Which I was 360.
Well.
The one thing that I think is the bigger difference, is the bigger deal this generation, is not 1080 versus 720 or 900 or wherever you want to be. It's the 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be more and more prevalent as the generation goes on. How many people are able to hit 60, and how many have to sacrifice and hit 30, or somewhere in between.
I also don't care about that. So
I don't care as much about as a lot of people do. I know Jonah freaks out about that one, but like Devil May Cry, for instance, the reboot is 30 FPS compared to all the others being 60 FPS. I never noticed anything that got in my way. I know for Dark Souls, people say you have to have it at 60 FPS or it's not going to work. Racing games, the same way. Fighting games are the same sort of way, but I don't know.
Shooters, 60 frames is...
Usually. I mean, I think like the new Halo is going to be 60, but I know like Battlefield last gen was still 30, and that didn't bother me that much.
Yeah. Well,
Infamous Second Son was 30.
Yeah,
that was fine.
Going to be 30.
That was fine, yeah.
There's a whole lot of other issues, I think, that are going to hold it back. Mostly that it's not out yet.
I think we can all agree this isn't really that interesting of a talking point anymore. It's just, it was a nice thing for Sony to be able to tout for a while, but it just doesn't really matter.
Doesn't it suck though when they have to go back on something like that? Because even with Assassin's Creed, they were touting like how important it was because it was 1080p, and then when Watch Dogs came out, they're like, you know what? It's not that much of a difference. So let's just don't go back and read that blog post we had because we said something else, and now we don't want to have to make ourselves look stupid.
Yeah.
Well, Sony was silly with Watch Dogs because they put on their website that it was going to be 1080p, 60 frames per second, and then they had to take it down because it wasn't 60 frames per second.
Well, when I saw that, I immediately thought, bullshit, someone screwed up because there's no way that game is 60 FPS, and then, of course, that happened. But all these articles were posting, Sony says it's... I'm like, no, it's not. It's an accident. But I guess it's still news because they posted it, but...
Internet. No one forgives anyone on the internet.
No, not at all. And that's why Michael Richards had to stop doing stand-up. That's
Bring it
sad.
old school.
So, Tristan, you wrote an article this week on something that I really didn't expect to be the case. It makes a little more sense now, I guess, why it's on two systems. But Forza Horizon 2.
Forza.
Forza. I knew you were going to say that.
Forza Roma.
So it's coming out. Unlike the last one, Motorsport 5, which was an Xbox One exclusive and launch title, Horizon 2 is going to be on 360 also, but it's going to be a different game.
Sure. It is. That is a fact. It will be a different game than the Xbox One version. My whole thing about it was that I just thought that the 360 version being a different game means that it's going to be missing features, and that's pretty much PR speak for like, hey, it's a totally different experience on this console. And I mean, I would like to be proven wrong, and they say here's what's different in like meaningful ways, but
yeah, the way they worded it, like inspired by the same thing, makes me think that it's going to be way different, and it's going to not try to even attempt to be like the Xbox One version, which honestly I'd be more of a fan of.
Me too. I think it could go either way. It could be like that, or it could just be like it is kind of they had to sacrifice stuff for the 360 version, so they're saying that to make it seem like it's worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, just an aside, I think this episode should be titled Invisible Gamecast. Tristan, you wrote something this week.
Yeah, I've said that a lot.
Yeah, I write things every week, so
He does.
Yeah.
Great news writer.
So, Tristan, you wrote something this week on an article on Steam. There's a Greenlight project, and this is... Okay, so I'm already sick of the whole simulator thing.
Oh, yeah.
Now there's Rock Simulator.
Okay, this was definitely just a joke. Like, if you go to the
Goat Simulator was a joke, too, let's be honest.
No, but that was like a meaningful joke. Like, that was like... Yeah, they were going to make a thing out of it.
That was pretty good.
Dude, I totally
That was actually Gotition.
Yeah.
It wasn't me.
Yeah. I think it's just this was, if you go to Strange Panther Games, which is the developer of it, and you go to their Steam profile, it's literally just like a dude. Like it says like Ryan, and it's like has his it has his play time for like games on Steam. And so I think it was kind of made as like a joke. I don't know what he's developing in, but he was just kind of like messing around and then.
What is he developing? It's just a rock in different environments.
No, I know, but I think.
Are we sure he didn't just carry a rock around in Skyrim?
That's what's so great. It's like Get Even. You don't know what's real and what's not.
If you pre-order, you can get a different kind of rock.
Yeah.
Pre-order for rock candy.
Hey man, they sent out dirt to Shovel Knight backers. Just saying.
I thought you were gonna say to dirt backers or to dirt pre-order bonus. How awesome would that be if for dirt they just gave you dirt?
Not very awesome because it's dirt still.
Not awesome enough.
Yeah, but what if it's like limited edition iconic dirt?
I don't know what we're talking about.
With an iconic baseball cap. I'm talking about Ubisoft using the word iconic a lot.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, Jim Sterling posted a thing where he in all their pre-order like pictures when they're showing what you get in the special editions for Watch Dogs, the Aiden Pierce cap, it said his iconic baseball cap, and now for Assassin's Creed, it says you can get the main character's iconic pocket watch, which we haven't even seen yet, and it's already iconic.
Aiden's iconic cap joins the likes of Mario and Luigi and
Did they say that?
And Michael's cap, Michael and Seth.
The Mario Luigi thing, no, but they said it's iconic.
Of course not.
I hope not.
Of course they would not say that.
With a mask, I understand. Like most people would understand if they saw that mask. If they play video games, at least, that it's from Watch Dogs. But anyone who sees that cap from afar and doesn't see the very, very white logo on it is not going to care at all.
No.
Anywho. So.
Rock Simulator.
What were we talking about? Oh, rocks.
Yeah, we were talking about rocks.
Yeah,
Now, one thing I want to talk about, just because I think it'd be strange, and we've seen kind of a disparity in two different executives at the company. So Respawn earlier this week, their chief operating officer said that there was a possibility, maybe, that there could be a real single-player campaign in Titanfall, which honestly I don't think would work very well. And apparently Vince Zampella doesn't either, because he then said, no, we're not doing that. That wouldn't work. That's stupid. He's an idiot. And you're in a winter wonderland now. So I just want to talk about, I guess, there's a different kind of culture at some of these places where they get their messaging crossed. We've seen it at Microsoft before as well, but I don't know. Do you think this differs any more from other forms of entertainment?
What, video games from?
Like messaging being this crossed before they actually go to jobs.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, there seems you don't hear. Well, I guess you do hear that in like movies and stuff about, or like TV shows, like
comics. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and just recently, like a story, Community got canceled, and then there was news that Sony, the producer, publisher, whatever you call it for TV shows, was shopping it around to other outlets. But then Dan Harmon, creator of Community, showrunner, all that stuff, posted, no, that's not really a thing I want to do. But then he was like, oh wait, yes, we are doing that. And then now
Joel McHale's saying like it could happen.
Yeah, but now it's actually not happening because Hulu doesn't want it. So it does, like, there are conflicting reports in other mediums as well.
6 seasons and a movie, right, Brian?
That show is still good. That show is
Change.org.
I'm one of those people
will be in the show notes.
I'd watch an episode of that show, but I would never keep watching it. I don't know why.
What is wrong with you, Gabe? You're the absolute worst human being.
I'm just one of those people, like, I had a hard time watching shows from start to finish unless they were Breaking Bad or True Detective.
No, you were...
God, I live in Breaking Bad. I live in Albuquerque.
Oh, man.
Oh, man, that's scary. I found out the real reason why they filmed that show there was because it was really cheap.
That is exactly the real reason why. That's why everyone's filming here now the last couple of years.
Yeah, for Pittsburgh, too. That's why like, Jack Reacher was filmed here.
Yep. It's extremely cheap here.
Yeah.
To do filming.
Movies. New Mexico.
Yep. Michael is trying to distract me in the chat, and I'm not going to it's not going to happen. So I don't know whether to be excited or not. I guess I should be. Have you guys heard of, what is this game even called now? Spacehulk Deathwing.
Nope.
Yeah, isn't that based off of Warhammer?
I just heard about it.
Yeah, it's based on a board game, and it's going to be a PS4 exclusive Unreal Engine 4 shooter, but it looks like a really ridiculous kind of Spacehammer-y shooter.
Warhammer 40K. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it is, right?
I said Spacehammer. Space Marine.
You actually did definitely say Spacehammer.
Yeah, Spacehammer like shooter.
3 times now.
Now we have a subtitle
Damn it.
for the show.
Space Marine shooter. I keep getting distracted looking at the chat while I'm trying to say this word, and it keeps getting out wrong.
Invisible Gamecast, number whatever, Spacehammer.
That's going to be the title now, it is.
Michael has fun with Google effects.
Did you guys play, speaking of which, have you played Warhammer Space Marine?
Yeah, I did.
I think it was free. Wasn't it free on PS Plus?
Yeah, that's why I played it.
Yeah, so I reviewed it before that, actually. I think I was playing it on 360, and that game surprised me, because when I first saw it, I thought it just looked like Gears, and then I played it, and it's like mostly a beat-em-up sort of game.
No, it's still Gears, but yeah, sure.
It's Gears?
Yeah.
I mean, it has... Anyway, and it's goofier. It's a lot goofier.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
well,
it's goofy.
Goofy's good.
Anywho.
I have not heard of this game, and I am not interested in it.
No,
Well, here's one you might be interested in, No Man's Sky. So we got a little more information on this, and I got an article from Kill Screen here that I'm going to load up. So obviously they showed off some more. Apparently there's going to be dinosaurs, and they can eat you and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's apparently going to be some sort of...
I mean, what were we expecting
Center of the universe.
when there were dinosaurs in space? Were we expecting they weren't going to eat us?
Well, it was. They showed like the long. What are the long neck ones called? I'm not good with that.
Brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus.
Apatosaurus, you mean?
Shut up.
2014, guys. Get with the present.
It's Brontosaurus, all right?
Brachiosaurus, too.
Anyway,
Velociraptor.
so it looks like there's going to be some sort of overarching mission, as they say, where you're trying to. There's going to be leveling up of your ships, and so there's going to be some sort of scripted event to go along with this. What I thought was kind of interesting, though, is that I don't remember which, it might have been Games Radar, but don't hold me to that. A site said, like, our favorite game of E3 didn't have any guns, but in the trailer for No Man's Sky that they showed, it very clearly showed a dogfight happening.
Yeah.
Guns on a ship, not in someone's hand.
Technically, those are the only, like, those are guns.
To reread it, Gabe, it said it didn't have any handguns.
That's not what I saw. Maybe it was a different article.
Didn't have any murder simulators.
Never
I
what?
was just being a goat.
All the lasers.
Speaking of goats.
So, Brian, who was the what was the name of the video games guy? Kevin Dent. That was going off on Twitter recently about how nobody cares about indies.
Well, he makes indies.
Yeah, exactly.
He was in what was that game called? Recoil. He was working on that.
So did that game not sell well? Is that why he's bitter?
No, it was just a piece of shit, and then he went back and said that he really didn't have much to do with it.
Yeah.
And he also called the Wiimote a dildo.
Brien pointed something out that he had said, and I couldn't help but get involved. And
Yeah, go. By all means. I'll sip my cup.
No, I'm done.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So...
But everybody sips their cup now.
Do indie games have a place? Obviously, the answer is yes, but...
yeah.
God, I don't know how you can even say that. There's so much less risk in them, for one thing. At least when a studio's made a couple of them and is releasing another one. Like, the way that Double Fine is doing it, they used to be a publisher's nightmare because they knew the games weren't going to sell well enough, but now... I don't think anymore.
Well, not to mention the fact that if the only things that are coming out are sports games and shooters, then the video game market is going to crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indies need indies in the video game market.
I think indies need
AAAs on their feet.
Need indies at this point. I think they both have a place, and they both need the other one to give someone else an option.
Yeah. Well, when you lose the middle of the market, all of the mid-tier titles and publishers like THQ and Midway, then you're going to have this disparity on both ends of the spectrum, where you have only the big budget shooters and sports games, and only the small 1- and 2-man publishers. But more and more frequently, we're seeing groups like Midnight City and Devolver Digital who are coming in and becoming indie publishing houses, and bringing smaller developers together and putting them out on multiple systems in order to raise awareness and raise more capital for these small developers.
Exactly.
Which is great. I think that's perfect.
With Unity support, and obviously I think developers just getting more experience, you see titles that I think rival what some of these huge studios can do. And the reverse is also true, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But like No Man's Sky, when people first showed that off, that game would be impressive if it was a 100-person team working on it. But it's 4 people working on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
AAA studios are finally rivaling the indies. That's what it sounded like you were saying.
Well, I'm going to say that they're taking a page from the indies.
Oh yeah.
We'll discuss that in a few minutes. But yeah, I used to be one of the people. Just a couple years ago, I really didn't play many indie games, and it was just, I don't know, they didn't interest me or something. But now they've become such a mainstream part, and I think part of that is because of the platforms, the console platforms at this point, not differentiating between them enough, or as much. I definitely should say they were definitely differentiating enough.
Well, digital distribution is like one of the biggest things that's happened a lot more over the last couple of years that really helps indies.
Definitely.
Because making an actual cartridge or disc for your game is extremely expensive. And so being able to digitally distribute your game through PSN or the eShop saves an insane amount of money. So that's huge. The rise of that over the last 5-10 years has made it a golden age of like indie developers being able to publish their games semi-cheaply, or more than it used to be. A lot more.
Yeah.
Right, and the loss of... Go ahead.
I was just going to say indie games and Zelda and Metroid are the only games that I get excited about anymore. So.
Yeah. And it helps that all of the first parties are lessening their need for large publishers to distribute these games. Specifically, Xbox getting rid of their, and Nintendo, and Sony, because up until like 2009, you couldn't self-publish on PlayStation Network, and everything turned after Flower came out, and then even though they published by Sony, but it seemed like 2009, 2010 was the year when indies started to make their headway on both 360 and PS3, and then now finally you can self-publish on Xbox One, PS4. You could self-publish from day one.
Yeah.
That's the future.
And here's the thing: a lot of people, when we have anti-consumer policies or trends within the industry or AAA publishers, seem to say, well, that's just the way it's going now. But then you see one company does something like this, and the others go, oh shit, that they're making us look bad. We have to move back. Not just the self-publishing thing, but think about when they got rid of online passes. It was a total domino effect. One company did it, the rest felt like they had to also.
Yeah.
Anywho.
And yeah. Anyway.
So now let's talk. We have a couple big games I think that came out. Well, big, small, important. Let's put it that way. One of them's big, but it's not as. I don't think it's been as discussed. If Metacritic's number of reviews is anything to go by at this point, and we'll start with that first. Get it out of the way. And I'm still excited for it. And that's Sniper Elite 3. And Seth, my understanding is you're also kind of pumped for this.
Yeah, it looks interesting to me. I don't like super fast-paced shooters like Call of Duty, whatever. But so
Call of Duty Ghosts, I think is what it was called.
Call of Duty Goats.
Yeah.
So I like more sniper style type stuff, and from what I've seen, I've never really played this specific series, but this current version looks like they have fine-tuned it enough that gotten rid of a lot of bugginess and problems that the last couple had. So this one looks pretty interesting to me.
And I like, I guess, that it's in Africa, because the one thing, and Enemy Front, I think a lot of people probably felt this way too, but these games, they always seem to be in Europe, these World War II games, and every once in a while you get one that's on the African front. It's like there was so much of the war was in that area, and I think that it was kind of wasted. The other thing that I think is kind of funny about this, so Sniper Elite 1 was in 2005, and it was, 6 years until Sniper Elite V2 came out. Now just, 7 years, and then just 2 years after that for this one. But in Sniper Elite V2, the pre-order bonus mission was to kill Hitler. I guess they didn't have very many ideas, because the pre-order bonus mission in this one is also to kill Hitler.
Well,
just in a different area.
It can never be not satisfying to kill Hitler.
Oh, especially since you can shoot him in the balls to kill him.
Yeah, you can see his nuts blow up.
But he has 2 of them, and he didn't have 2. At least that's the rumor. He only had 1. He had.
Oh man, inaccuracy.
No, I don't even feel bad. Fuck Lance Armstrong. Let's talk about
it. Sniper Elite V3.
What's that?
I said nothing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll listen to it later and I'll hear it. Anyway, so yeah, I am excited about this. I think the issue that these games tend to run into is that they have good sniping scenarios, but there's also a lot of other stuff they have to get you from point A to point B, and that more general combat isn't what works as well. So.
Yeah.
So next we'll talk about the game that we just had a review go up by the time you read it, it'll be up for about a day at this point. Valiant Hearts. So this came out officially on Wednesday, but on PSN I actually downloaded it Tuesday. It was up, and they didn't really talk about it that much besides what was supposedly an erroneous post on the PlayStation blog. This is a Ubisoft Montpellier game. It uses the UbiArt framework, just like just like Child of Light and Rayman did before it. And so I think a few of us are playing it right now. What do you guys think of it so far?
I love it. I have a huge part of my heart that loves puzzle games.
You wanted to say hard on so much, but you didn't.
I curbed my enthusiasm there, but I love games like this that are kind of platforming puzzle-based games. The Adventures of Monkey Island are some of my favorite games ever, and this is just like that. The art is phenomenal. It's maybe one of the most well done artistically games I've seen in a long time. The score for the game is also amazing.
The audio design is impeccable.
I really hope they release a soundtrack for the game. Yeah, it's solid all around. The story is really great too, and I have not finished it yet, but it's great.
You'll be satisfied, by the way.
I don't know how I feel about it yet, personally. I'm enjoying the story. I'm halfway through the first chapter. I actually figured I must be halfway through the game by now, but I'm halfway through the first chapter. The characters are great. The music is great, except that it feels like it repeats a little bit, but I'm not really a fan of the puzzles, and I grew up playing those adventure games, and I feel like, I don't know, they feel a little out of place to me, but...
a lot of them take a back seat at some point, especially early on with the levers and stuff like that. Yeah. When the puzzles start getting a little more combat-focused or avoiding combat-focused, I think is when it really picks up, and I talk about this in my review. But yeah,
The last thing I did was get medicine for Freddy.
Okay. Oh, you're still really, really early.
Yeah, you're really young. Yeah.
You haven't even met Anna yet, have you?
Yeah, I have. She's the one that rescued them in the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe you did.
Yeah,
that's great.
Anyway.
What is it? So it's you got to the part where they get flung out of the car, and then you need the medicine for them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're still pretty early on. There's a few more of those car chase scenarios which are much harder than that one.
Oh, those I actually was telling my wife while I was playing it. Those are the worst thing ever in video games, and not because like they're intrinsically not fun, but because every time a developer inserts those as like sort of a bridge between scenes in their games, they always go on way too long.
Yeah, they do go on very long.
So my grade so far, B-.
Okay. And so I think the game tonally gets much more confident as it goes on, and like there's a villain and there's kind of a subplot that I think is a little too simplistic for the rest of the game. Even though obviously they're trying to make it this art style, it's in contrast to what is still very mature themes, and that continues. Yeah, so far I beat it. I really liked the way they wrapped it up. It didn't feel like they felt like they had to do it a certain way. It felt like this is the way that they wanted to end the game, and it's very satisfying. So what I meant, the combat puzzles, so to speak. There's a lot of moments where, in the middle of these firefights, in contrast to games where you're trying to like kill a bunch of guards, it's mainly wait for them to stop shooting, run, hide behind the piles of your dead friends who are lying on the ground, keep running, clip through some barbed wire, and keep going. And I just love how they focus more on you rescuing people and just surviving than actually having to kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I think at the beginning of the game it says something like it's based freely, I think is the word, on actual events.
Yeah. So what that's in reference
based on real characters or real people.
What that's in reference to are letters that one of the developers had from his either grandfather or great-grandfather who fought in World War One.
Oh, I'm sorry. B+.
Okay.
One of the things too that I really like, and is, I think I even mentioned this online, but it's like a history lesson in a game, which maybe will turn a lot of people off and be like, screw that, I don't want any kind of schooling in my games. But constantly throughout the game, you're finding these artifacts, and there's every part of the game you're in has these little real pictures and then paragraphs describing that part of the actual war. And find these artifacts, and instead of it just being some random thing you find, whether it's a trinket like in Uncharted, it actually gives you like what it was used for during the war. And to me, like the whole mood of the game and the history of it, it's a package, and I really like it.
Yeah,
I like
it's giving a very easy way to digest something that then is much more than you realize. I think when they introduced the mustard gas, for instance. They and Michael just posted. They do feel like Wikipedia entries, but it's the way they're introduced, I think, that made them nice.
Well, that's why I said
so like
piano
music. They show like a guard, or excuse me, like another soldier walking away from the mustard or chlorine gas, whatever it was, and falling dead, and then you'll see a diary entry explaining you in detail like what exactly happened. So they give
what happened was he didn't wear a mask soaked in urine.
Yeah, not him specifically. At one point you also get a mask for the dog. Which is the most adorable thing in the world. And so, but yeah, these little things will give you just enough information to push the story forward, but then give you a diary entry to read, or excuse me, a historical entry to read that gives you more info on what you just saw. And it's a very nice kind of balance.
Even if it is Wikipedia, I still think that it's a little more effort than most game developers do.
It's like Assassin's Creed.
They also reference Flanders Fields a lot in this. I don't know if you noticed.
I don't even know who that is.
It's a poem from World War II, or World War One, excuse me, with
Alan Seeger's poem.
I think so. It's Gas, Quick Boys, that one. Yeah, it's like the most famous poem from that era about the death and everything. But I've been saying for a couple years now, Assassin's Creed I thought should have gone to World War I, because the way combat happened with No Man's Land stuff, I thought it would have actually worked. Everyone says World War II, but World War II, I just don't think that the way that the battles played out would have worked very well for an Assassin's Creed game. But I guess this is a good substitute, and this is a really more easily empathetic sort of war, I guess, because obviously you think about Americans and French and whatever versus the Germans, but you're not thinking about them versus Hitler's evil regime or whatever. There's still at least a little bit of a common ground thing there.
What was the last game?
I would love to see a Cold War Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
That would just be James Bond.
That took place during World War I. It couldn't be Eternal Darkness, right? There has to be something between.
I was thinking back. I can't really think of anything.
I looked it up a while ago. I looked up games that took place in World War I because World War I's the history of it is cool. Not much, believe it or not. It's like that and like a lot of dogfighting games. Because like
Red Baron
and yeah, exactly. Snoopy's Red Baron took place.
I was just gonna say Snoopy.
A lot of PC Master Race games, probably.
Yeah.
Eternal Darkness had a segment that took place at the Battle of the Somme, which is actually where all of J.R.R. Tolkien's friends died. Which is
and some of Valiant Hearts take place there as well.
Yeah.
There's an achievement for something in that, I think.
That's part of what inspired the creation of the Lord of the Rings.
Let me tell you something about
I thought
Tolkien.
he was just grading a test, and he wrote something about a Hobbit, and he was like, "All right."
But that was the Hobbit. Anyway.
Different things, Gabe. Hobbit, Lord of the Rings.
I'm gonna twist my mustache here. Anyway, so yeah, I'm really liking Valiant Hearts. I think if you're trying to get through the first couple chapters, and you're like, well, I don't know where this is gonna go, keep playing it. You'll like where it ends up. And I think the gameplay is definitely better at the end, more than it is at the beginning. I also really like those healing mini games. I don't know why, they're real simple, but I enjoyed those a lot. So now the last thing, Michael and Seth, you've both been playing this. Very exciting. It's getting great reviews. I have not been able to play it yet. I haven't had time. Shovel Knight just came out.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Michael, you start.
Why should I start? I wrote the review. I'm done talking about the game. No. So Shovel Knight is it's like a very Mega Man-esque platformer from a small 13 people team called Yacht Club Games, who were part of WayForward before. They didn't work on like the Shantae series, but they did a lot of good software for them, including A Boy and His Blob, and more importantly, Contra 4, which is excellent.
Great.
If you didn't play it, but yeah, I haven't beaten it.
I never got past level 2.
I think I got to level 4, but Shovel Knight is one of these things where it's like, okay, so a team has a vision, right, and WayForward had been going through publishers for a while for their a lot of what WayForward did was actually licensed stuff.
Still do.
Yeah. So that's like their bread and butter, that sort of like funds games like Shantae, which people love, but publishers aren't interested in. So for whatever reason, they felt that they couldn't accomplish what they wanted at WayForward, so they sailed off on a yacht. And they had this idea of what would games look like today if basically the same basic technology that was used in the NES had just been refined over the past couple decades. And so what they did was they built Shovel Knight to sort of like emulate the feeling of an NES game, like perfectly, without being like slavishly tied down to the technical limitations of the system. And so what you have is basically a game that is, if you haven't played an NES game in like 20 years, it's what you think NES games always look like.
But if you went back and actually played one, you realize you were wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a wider color spectrum. It doesn't have sprite limitations. It's got better animation. It's amazing. But it takes all these elements of these great actual good games and works them together into something that is a hell of a lot of fun to play. But more than that, it's its own thing, because it's got this very confident sense of humor that it's totally irrelevant. We were talking before we started recording about like the villagers, how they're like horses and dresses, and I don't know. It's really
the Troupple.
The Troupple, yeah. The Troupple King is it's if you were ever, yeah. So actually, I read about the I saw on Twitter last night about the origin of the Troupple. A Troupple, by the way, is what you get when you cross a trout and an apple.
I googled the word, and it is something else, but I don't remember what it is.
But did you Google it with 2 P's? Because I didn't see anything in Google. But basically, I guess somebody was buying like a bag when fruit is dried.
Dried fruit.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Somebody was buying a bag of dried apple slices or whatever, and it had a picture of a trout on it. And so they're like, let's do something with this.
Oh, that's so amazing.
But yeah. I don't know. Read my review. Why don't you talk about it, Seth? You've been playing it more recently than I have, I think.
Well, I mean, you summed it up pretty good there in terms of just the beauty behind it in a lot of ways. I mean, I think saying that it's when you go, sometimes you have this idea of games you played in your childhood, and when you go back and play them, they don't hold up in a lot of ways. And I think saying that this is the game that you would hope that you could go back and play and it would hold up, and that's what it looks like, is a really good way to describe it, because it's there's so many games right now that are made to emulate the 8-bit, 16-bit era. It's almost... Oh, go ahead.
I said too many.
Yeah, I was just going to finish my sentence saying it's almost too much. And as someone who grew up in that time period, I don't want to play them all. There are a few that are good, and even the good ones aren't great. But there's something about Shovel Knight that it just nails, and it's a combination of just the art style, the humor, the music is phenomenal, really great as well, which to me is always a big selling point for games.
For example, what did I say when a rat knocked me into a bottomless pit?
Rats.
Rats.
Leave the jokes to me, Michael, please.
I didn't
no, don't leave them to him. You saw what happened when you leave the jokes to him.
No, it's... Oh, go ahead.
I just want to build on sort of what you were saying. It's like what you and Gabe were both saying, which is that, yes, there are too many of these sort of like retro revivals now, but I don't think it's too many, like, because like there's no demand for it. I feel like developers sort of lean too hard on the concept of old games were hard, so we have to make our games punishingly hard, and it's like
there's other things that were good about old games.
It's just sort of a joke at this point. Like 1001 Spikes, for instance, which I reviewed, I gave it a B. Like, I enjoyed the game, but I also hate it like so much. It doesn't feel good to play that game, except for like the 2 seconds when you beat a level finally. And like same thing with Retro City Rampage. For that game's really fun, and it's actually a lot better in the DX version. But there were parts about the original version that were just like Brian Provinciano had said that these are how hard the games were when I played them as a kid, and so everybody remembers that. It's like, it's bullshit. Like, people just want to have fun with games today. So Shovel Knight, it's not. There is a new game plus mode that is very hard, and I finished it. It took me like 3 hours more than the regular difficulty.
And how long was that?
Oh, I think the regular game on regular difficulty took me 6 or 7 hours. Collecting. It's
a little shorter than I expected, but okay.
Everything. And it's got 8 main bosses. It's like a Mega Man game basically, with some optional stuff. So think like Mega Man 2 or 3 probably will take 3 or 4 hours. It's actually pretty long. But New Game Plus took me a good 9 or 10 hours. Because like it. So about the difficulty, like the standard difficulty, it feels just right for pretty much everybody to just have a good time. But if you don't want to play New Game Plus and you want to challenge, like there's this really cool thing that I've never seen before in a game that Shovel Knight does, where you have these checkpoints throughout the levels. Some levels are really long and you have like 4 or 5 checkpoints. Some only have 2. and they're harder levels. But so we all know how checkpoint works. A checkpoint works if you die, you come back at the checkpoint. But there's a lot of stuff in Shovel Knight that hinges on collecting treasure, upgrades for your armor, upgrades, like new moves for your shovel, relics, which are like sub-weapons and sub-items that help you get to hidden areas.
So it's Castlevania.
Yeah.
Yep.
That as well. There's Castlevania, Zelda 2, Mario 3, Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, no, that second game you said makes me not want to play this now.
Well, Zelda 2 in the villages,
format, yeah.
which are like really fun to hang out.
Oh, like I Am Error?
Yeah, like that.
Let's Live Here.
It's just all kind of. It's more elegant than that because, like I said, the writing is really confident. But anyway, so with the checkpoints now, you can actually destroy them, and you'll get like a ton of treasure from them. But if you die, that checkpoint no longer exists. So then you will go back to the last checkpoint that you didn't destroy, or to the beginning of the level. And so I'm actually, because I already finished the regular game and New Game Plus on the Wii U, like I'm going through it on normal difficulty on 3DS a lot slower because I'm not beating a level until I can do it while destroying all the checkpoints. And it's really difficult because if you've played these kinds of games like I have for my entire life, like you get kind of confident in your skills, right? You make one mistake, you're dead. And you gotta go all the way back to the beginning of the level. You're like, fuck this, I'm done for now.
Can I say this about Shovel Knight? As someone that grew up with a PS2, I am so excited for this game. That might be just me too, because I'm weirdly into old stuff. But
bless you.
This is probably the most excited I've been for a game this year, barring South Park and like Donkey Kong. So.
And I wasn't excited until I saw reviews that good. Now I am.
No, it's mostly Michael's talk about it and the travel.
Yeah, I couldn't stop talking about it throughout the week. It's just I smiled the whole way through. Like even like at the very ending, like the ending is good, and I didn't expect it. I probably should have, but it made me feel good inside. It made me happy. So
good.
Yeah,
That's
the game is just
So now I want to move on real quick and just talk about what we've been playing this week. Besides Valiant Hearts, which I've been playing a lot, I feel like I'm going to get crapped on for this because as someone who talks about shooters a lot, I had before never played what is probably the most important shooter ever made, Half-Life, and I'm working on it now. I'm playing the original, no, I'm not playing Half-Life.
You're playing the best one.
Are you playing the Dreamcast version?
No, I'm playing it on my Mac.
Do you guys know about
GoldenEye is more important shooter.
I know there's a PS2 version.
No, Half-Life is a more important shooter. No, I don't mean like I'm not saying like just to argue. I don't like Half-Life. I like GoldenEye. I love Half-Life 2.
I've never played Half-Life.
The thing for me is like by the time I got to play Half-Life, it was already like the early 2000s, and it was just so like. There's a difference for me between pixel art, how that ages, and how like polygon art ages.
Yeah, it doesn't. It looks pretty ugly.
Half-Life.
I've seen the same scientist like 700 times. There's like
that's part of the charm.
But it's not. It's like, are you freaking? Okay, let's put it this way: the G-Man teleports from room to room. Those scientists don't, but it seems like they do because I keep seeing the same one over and over again.
Doesn't matter. Best Half-Life game.
Do you guys know about the Dreamcast version, by the way?
No.
I knew that it was maybe going to be a thing, or did it actually come to be a thing?
It was completed, and it was canceled, and you can get an ISO of it on the internet, but there's actually a complete packaging for it, which I think only a couple copies exist. No actual disc, but the package that it was released in, which is worth like thousands of dollars to Dreamcast collectors. But
anyway, Tristan, what are you playing?
No, actually, I want to hear. Let's not move on to Tristan yet. I want to hear more what you think about.
What do I think?
No, I want to hear what you think about Half-Life because you're the shooter guy and you're just not playing Half-Life.
I mean, I'm going to echo a little bit of what you said, and it is not the shooting itself is aged very, very poorly. The hit detection is absolutely horrible. As far as the story goes, maybe it's because it's been hyped up so much, but some of it's a little more expected, or maybe it's because this was the first to do a lot of these things.
Yeah, right.
It's not blowing me away yet. I do like some of the puzzles, actually. like the puzzles moving forward, and I'm just not a big fan of playing with a keyboard and mouse, so it's a little bit harder for me. But I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna go back to it. It's just, I mean, I'm kind of on board with you. Everyone talks about Half-Life 2, and I look at the environments in that game. I'm just kind of playing this. I'm like, all right, gonna get through this so I can get to Half-Life 2.
Yeah, here's what's great about Half-Life. The fact that it's all contained within Black Mesa makes it like feels so great for me personally. Like Half-Life, sure, like technically there's a lot of things that have usurped it greatly, but there's just something about
including Black Mesa. Just saying.
Sure. Yeah, the remake was forced.
Yeah, it's not on Mac though. I would have played that version if it was.
No, it is, isn't it?
No, I looked at the website. They said like it might be in the future, or like they're working on it.
I thought that I could. I'll open my Steam.
Okay, they say that you can play it on Mac, but you need to like.
No, I think you're right. I think that I have to boot into Windows to play it.
Yeah, they say you can do it. There's a way to do it, but I mean, I completely lost my train of thought. The thing about
we're talking about how much better Half-Life 2 looks and how you have to just push yourself to get through Half-Life.
There's something else, and I'm gonna completely forget now. I'm sorry, I failed you.
Okay, well since you forgot, let me ask.
The sound. The story, there's no cutscenes, which I'm fine with. There's a lot of games that don't have cutscenes, but the sound of the people talking is so muddled compared to everything else that I've missed lines of dialogue that are important, and I have to like walk right up to someone to hear what they said, which is something that would just not fly in a game today.
Except unless you're talking about Infamous Second Son, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because
that happened to me
broken surround sound. I'm not looking forward to downloading the DLC and having it not work. Can I ask a quick question for you, shooter guys? Since we're talking about old games,
yeah.
Am I gonna be blown away if I buy and play System Shock 2 in 2014?
I still haven't played System Shock 2.
Me neither.
No, I thought.
Has anyone in here played System Shock at all?
The first one?
I mean, just any System Shock. I guess
no,
we're not able to talk about System Shock.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tristan. What are you playing?
I don't need video games.
He's just writing the whole time.
I'm always writing and working a minimum wage job, so I don't play. No, Mercenary King still. I am surprised by the length of that game. I just keep sinking time into it, and
I could not get through that at all.
Oh, it's so much. Reviewers put like 200 hours into that game.
Yeah, Tribute is great, by the way. Wizorb is fantastic, and then a lot of them worked on the Scott Pilgrim game. Anyways, and then Lego The Hobbit, which is great. I haven't played a Lego game since Star Wars, so I'm not tired out on that Lego.
Play Undercover, dude.
I will. I plan on going back. Here's the thing about the Lego games. I'm interested in all of them because I'm interested in all the properties. Like I'm a nerd, so I love Batman. I love Harry Potter.
Lego City Undercover is definitely the best, but I enjoyed Lego The Hobbit. I haven't.
I kind of want to play Marvel. I've heard such good things about it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
The only one I don't care about is the movie one.
Well, yeah. That's directly based on the movie too. So that's.
But it's still a Lego game, and
Sure.
But...
Well, I guess one of the main mechanics in The Hobbit was kind of borrowed from the Lego the movie, the video game.
Okay, all the mechanics and all the Lego games are borrowed from all the other Lego games.
Sure.
Plus, the Lego The Hobbit game came out before that, so just saying.
I thought the Lego movie game came out before that.
I don't think so.
Oh.
No, Hobbit was.
Lego The Hobbit came out.
I guess I'm getting up.
You guys, Lego is stealing from Lego.
Yeah, I guess I'm mixed up with the original movie release because of that. I saw that pretty close to when it came out. So.
Okay.
Anyways, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Seth, what about you?
I am playing Valiant Hearts, Shovel Knight, which we just talked a lot about, and I'm playing a ton of Worms on PS4, Worms Battleground, which is
review
one of my
coming
favorite.
Soon.
Yes, review coming soon for sure on the site, and
a triple S joint.
a triple S joint on IG. Bad. Yeah, those are the 3 games I'm playing right now.
Bad.
Michael, what about you?
Well, let's see. I'm playing Shovel Knight. I guess I'm playing Valiant Hearts now because I felt like since Gabe and I were arguing before the show about which one was more important, I felt like it would be wrong of me, not to put any pressure on you to go get Shovel Knight, but I thought it would be wrong of me, like.
I probably will. I just don't know.
I know.
Should I get it on? Let me ask you that.
3DS.
3DS?
Definitely don't get it on PC, only because I've heard some people are having controller problems.
There's no way for me. If I had it on a Mac, I might get it on a Mac. But yeah, so 3DS the way to go?
3DS because it has a unique Street Pass function.
And I'm going to ask you this, something very specific before we... What is the file size?
120 megabytes. 140, excuse me.
I think I can deal with that. I just have the same... I never got an upgraded SD card because I always buy physical.
So it's like 1,200 blocks.
Yeah, I should be...
damn it, we forgot to talk about that. But that's okay. Shovel Knight, and I'm also playing... I don't know if it's Xenonauts, but it's... I think it was a Kickstarted project as well.
We're talking about that. It's the Bigoted Astronauts.
Yeah, the Bigoted Astronauts. Anyway, it's basically... It's funny... You know, people are really excited for this game, people that are XCOM fans. And I figured, you know, okay, it's a remake of old XCOM, like from 1994. Like they felt like instead of making it more modern and more streamlined for modern audiences like Enemy Unknown and Within, they would just make XCOM if it were released, I don't know, today. 15 years ago, but yeah, it's just XCOM. It's an update of old XCOM. It's not published by Microprose, obviously, because they're gone. Julian Gollop is not involved, but you know, it's a small team. It's kind of, you know, the art's kind of cheesy, but it's every bit as like tense as the original game. Everybody's hard, but it does actually have like some really nice.
What is it? The everybody's
you know exactly what I'm laughing at.
Yeah. It's sunk in everyone.
I don't know what happened, but that's fine.
You said everybody's hard, Michael. That's what happened.
Everybody is hard when they play it. You know, nuts. You know, it's got some like modern. It's got some modern like control concessions, but it's you know. So I'm playing an old new XCOM, and then finally the other game I'm focusing on is Final Fantasy Type 0, because the fan translation came out, and as soon as they like kind of as soon as Square Enix rescinded the announcement that it was coming to Vita, I was like, "Fuck you guys! I don't want to play it on a TV." And it's really, really good. I mean, if you guys played Crisis Core or Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, it's using that engine.
Oh, the worst Kingdom Hearts game?
The best Kingdom Hearts game? Let's fight when this is over.
You didn't look at Chain of Memories?
No, Chain of Memories is not the worst Kingdom Hearts game.
No, it's the best.
No,
well, no, it's not.
Birth by Sleep is by far the best Kingdom Hearts game.
Birth by Sleep is by sleep.
Control. You're fired. You're fired from opinions for the next 20 seconds until I'm done. And then you can talk again. Yeah, it's not a typical Final Fantasy. It's kind of like got a, you know, it's like a real-time combat with menus, sort of like Kingdom Hearts. But the tone is just like very, very serious, very dark. It's what people want from Final Fantasy, and I highly recommend everybody who can to download the ISO, patch it, play it, import the game if it's still available from a retailer that is going to give money to Square Enix. But everybody should play it. It's excellent.
Okay. And Brian, last, how about you?
I picked back up some Tomb Raider Definitive Edition for PS4, trying to finish that finally. And still going about as slowly as I was before. I also played a little bit of Spelunky on Vita because when in doubt, I always go back to Spelunky. But I did finish SteamWorld Dig on Vita, and I really enjoyed that. I really, really enjoyed that.
Speaking of SteamWorld Dig, I saw just a couple reviews from Shovel Knight that felt like they had to say, I dig it. And I'm just saying, SteamWorld Dig came out a while ago, and we don't need to recycle that pun.
I saw a couple different reviews make that joke.
We had our pun contest.
Yeah, we did. To get a free copy of the game.
Shovel Knight itself reused that pun, though. There's in the village, the lady says it to you.
That's even worse.
What's that? She says, I dig it.
After that.
Oh, are we talking about the lady that's like, I love every boy, but really I love you the most.
Yes.
That's creepy.
I don't like that. I don't like that wording.
It's not like that. It's
On
not
that note of
I like
implied
every
pedophilia,
boy.
I think we're going to end this.
I love every boy.
So let's hope we don't end up on any lists. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Happy hunting. Follow us on Twitter.
Happy hunting.